Welcome to The Heart of the Matter, a podcast that covers legal developments from around the world. I'm your host, Stephen Lai. This podcast is brought to you by Conventus Law. In this episode, we will be discussing the ESG landscape in Hong Kong. Joining me in this discussion are lawyers from the Stephenson Harwood Hong Kong office, Penelope Shen and Tze-wei Ng. Before getting to the heart of the matter, a message from our sponsor, who generously supports this podcast.
Ashford Benjamin was founded with the belief that search firms should offer a better service to clients and candidates. This means taking the time to provide a genuine partnership, understanding our clients' and candidates' needs, and proactively advising on the best course of action, utilizing the decades of experience in our industry specialisms, including risk, compliance, business and legal recruitment consultancy, located in central Hong Kong, serving Asia Pacific.
Welcome to the show, Tze-wei and Penelope. How are you?
Good. Nice weather today.
Yeah, very nice. The sun's coming straight into my head. I can't find my baseball cap, so I'm roasting out here. Great. So we're talking about ESG in this series, and kicking off in this episode, we're going to give people a brief overview. But before we begin, can you guys just give a quick, brief introduction about yourself so that our listeners know who they're listening to on the show?
I am Penelope Shen. I am a partner at Stephenson Harwood. I head the investment funds team here. I guess because we're talking about ESG today, maybe I'll just give a quick overview of my ESG journey as well. I've always been very passionate about the E. We'll go through that, what E is, if you don't know what that is. And I guess having been more involved in this space, then now I am personally focusing a lot more on the S and the G as well. So on that, I'll pass it to Tze-wei.
Sure. Thank you, Penny. I'm Tze-wei, and I'm a lawyer with the private wealth team of Stephenson Harwood in Hong Kong. But prior to coming back to private practice just 3 years ago, I spent nearly a decade working in the NGO sector. And the last few years, I was with a family office that is big in advocating for impact investing and sustainable finance in Hong Kong. So it's really with that experience, also in strategic philanthropy, that I came back with that interest and specializing in that area with our private wealth team here. And actually, Penny and I, we've known each other for a very long time. We happen to have gone to the same high school, and
University as well.
Well, yes, okay. Not revealing our age, but that's why it's particularly meaningful that I think the two of us can now work on growing ESG for our firm here.
That's great. This episode is really all about more of an introduction episode about ESG, about, what your firm's doing and what's happening in Hong Kong. Well, why don't I kick off with Penny then? Penny, can you just give us an overview of ESG? A lot of listeners, they already know what ESG is, but we obviously know ESG has been a topic that's been brewing, I would say, in the last few years, but certainly this year, we certainly see more and more conversations about it. So it'd be great to maybe you could take us back to its sort of introduction level, a brief overview of what ESG is.
Just now, I kind of mentioned that I've always been interested in E. I think in the market generally, when we talk about ESG, I think it's also the global trend. Everyone tends to focus on the E, which is environment. So from a company or investment context, how does the environment affect the businesses and the investment of people? But actually, S and G are also as important. And I guess people are slowly realizing that, ESG encompasses also the social impact. Meaning that how does it affect people in general? So it could be the employees, the consumer of the company, the supply chain, the community. The last one, G, refers to governance. All three elements kind of tie in with each other, because without a proper governance, you won't be able to manage the company properly, meaning that a lot of times you probably won't be able to take care of your employees and your customers And then as a result, more like an end result that will also affect the environment generally. So I think that the three elements kind of go hand in hand. It's quite important for people to look at all three together instead of separately.
So that's great. So thank you for that summary, Penny. I also understand your firm, Stephenson Harwood, has taken, I would say, a pretty forward approach to ESG. If you go to your website, there is an ESG hub, there's an Asia ESG group, and there's all sorts of content about, COP26, et cetera, et cetera. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Why has the firm taken such a proactive approach on this?
Well, I think most importantly is that management, both in the Asia market as well as globally, have acknowledged the importance of ESG. I guess in businesses generally going forward, it is an area that cannot be overlooked. And also from my dealings with management here and in London, we see actually a very passionate group of lawyers who actually want to do good and hopefully also make some money out of it. But, that's why I think it's a very unified consensus that is driving the core value of the firm at the moment. And for that, we also have introduced decarbonization as one of the core focuses of the firm this coming year. I guess it's coming few years at least. So we have been having a lot of meetings talking about how the different offices can collaborate, how can we move this forward. Being a shipping firm and starting from as a shipping firm, I think decarbonization is very important to our clients. We seeing clients moving away from the traditional fossil fuel, looking at alternative arrangements, also green financing arrangements, etc. So that's the core focus of the firm at the moment. And I guess zooming closer to the smaller parts that we are doing. You mentioned that now we have a ESG hub now consolidating all the ESG related information provided by the firm. It could be on the legal side, litigation side, etc., and updates. And previously, when COP26 was introduced, one of our partners in London actually was the only lawyer who was speaking in the conference. And then zooming even closer to our Hong Kong office. So since Tze-wei and I joined Stephenson Harwood 2 years ago, we decided to start the Asian ESG interest group together. So mostly collaborating with the Asian offices, which is Singapore and Dubai and Shanghai and Guangzhou office. And we'll have regular meetings. And then we will also speak to our London office as well. Again, ESG is not just about E, so we also like to walk the talk. The firm has also pushed forward a new pro bono initiative encouraging associates to do more pro bono and putting those into a productive billable hours for the time they spend doing pro bono work. And then we are also sourcing from more environmentally providers like Mooncake, we have been sending out mooncakes to everyone. And we are conscious to find mooncakes that are packaged in an environmental way.
Or from social enterprises in Hong Kong. Yeah, and I guess also our D&I initiatives and also seeing how ESG as a lens that we would apply across not only our service offerings, but everything we do within the firm. Like Penny said, walk the talk, and seeing the connection between our D&I and ESG and CSR. So they're not in separate pillars.
Before I move on to the next question, I just want to ask you, Penny, you had the investment funds practice at Stephenson Harwood, and Tze-wei, you're in the private wealth practice. The ESG, is it affecting all your clients across the board, you're finding, or is it any one group in particular that's more affected than others?
For sure, we as a firm, we do see ESG impacting across all our practice areas. Of course, I would say maybe some area the ESG impact is a little bit more obvious right now. For example, Penny mentioned shipping or a litigation team in London, but it cuts across finance, funds, corporate, private wealth. I think right now for Penny, especially, is also quite busy because of the new SFC, our climate requirements. So it comes up in different proportion, but it definitely impacts all the practice areas.
Yeah, I think for funds, I guess in Hong Kong specifically, since we are focusing on Hong Kong, the ESG initiative at the moment from a legal perspective, policies and regulations are driven by the financial sector. So we do see that the financial sector being in the forefront of being affected or having to do something. So while Tze-wei mentioned the fund managers nowadays, they have this year, most of them will have this year, end of this year as a deadline to comply with SFC's disclosure requirements. And we also, as a Tze-wei is in the private wealth space, and we also see family offices with the new generation. They are definitely looking more and more at impact investment, what kind of philanthropy they can undertake. And just taking New World as an example, looking at what Adrian is doing, that's completely different from maybe the previous generation. So definitely we're seeing changes in both areas.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. This is, I guess, only relevant because there's some legal regulatory framework to make sure ESG actually happens. So perhaps you could tell me a little bit, Penny, a little bit about the overview of Hong Kong's legal and regulatory framework with respect to ESG.
I guess taking a step back, just the general direction of Hong Kong. I think everyone have heard the government talk a lot about, their carbon goals, carbon neutrality by 2050. And then that's in response to the Paris Agreement and then the publication of the Climate Action Plan 2050. So in echo to that, of course, there will be regulations to support the initiative pushed forward by the government. And as I said earlier, the financial institutions or the financial regulators are in the forefront of moving this forward. For example, there's the cross-steering agency, the Green and Sustainable Finance Cross-steering
Agency.
That was formed between the regulators driven by the SFC and the Hong Kong MA. And then also the same steering group has published a carbon trading feasibility report earlier this year. So with that in the backdrop, regulations in Hong Kong, interestingly enough, in the past, there isn't really a so-called ESG law. Generally, as we said, it covers a lot of areas. So right now, it can cover under pollution or resources conservation, social law, labor law, even health and safety, anti-discrimination law. So it actually covers a very wide range of ordinance that are in place right now.
Great. Thank you very much, Penny. And on our next episode, we're actually going to take a deeper look into the legal regulatory framework in Hong Kong with regards to ESG. So look forward to talking to you more about that. Now, for this episode, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, Penny and Tze-wei, for being on. Thank you, listeners, for listening. And I look forward to talking to you on our next episode.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.